Can I make a convincing cake in a microwave and an air fryer? It sounds like it's insulation foam, but I'm not going to bin it or try and break a window with it. Let's start with the ingredients. I've got 1 beaten egg. I've got 100 grams of flour. It's only going to be a small cake. 100 grams of sugar. 100 grams of margarine or butter. I've got a very small baking tin. It's silicone for the microwave. And I've got 1 teaspoon of baking powder. So, as usual, I would start by combining the sugar and the butter and beating them together. So I've creamed the butter and the sugar together, and I'm now going to add the egg, just to get a good mix of the wet ingredients. I'm just going to combine the baking powder with the flour. And get that mixed together. Normally I'd sieve flour into a sugar and butter and egg mixture just to incorporate some air, but I found you can just as easily just incorporate by sprinkling small amounts. Sometimes it's as effective, other times you'll get a heavier and denser cake as a result, but just work the flour in. Next we'll line our tin, which as you can see is a very small tin, but it's about the only size that will fit my small air fryer. Putting the greaseproof paper in just to make it easy to remove the cake once it's spent its time cooking. And let's add the batter to the tin. So we now have our tin prepared. We'll take it over to the microwave. I'm going to try cooking this on 50% power and work out how it's cooking as we go along. In this case the oven will only go to 60%, but that should do. Let's make some room. And let's get her in there for 5 minutes. So after 5 minutes at 50 or 60% power on a 700 or 800 watt microwave, we can do the skewer test, which is the acid test for whether a cake's cooked. Does the skewer come out clean? Yep, and that's reasonably clean. Certainly I would imply it's cooked, but it looks a little bit anemic. It smells quite eggy. So we're going to try and knock some of that off by using the air fryer to finish off and hopefully give a nice finish to the cake. So we have the cake in the air fryer basket. We've exposed the top, the sides and each end, leaving only the bottom to sit on the grease-proof paper before we enter into the air fryer. So let's go for 10 minutes at 160, which is a good baking temperature usually. So our 10 minutes is nearly up and we'll see how it looks. And we may need to flip it over to do the underside just to add a bit more flavour. Probably not necessary, but it might just be a nice finish. So here we go, let's have a look. Yeah, we've got a good golden colour on there. It's not uniform, but we wouldn't necessarily expect that to be. Just taking care to remove it from the air fryer tin as it will be hot. And there we have it. It's got a nice brown top, it feels crisp. Peel the baking paper away. Having turned it over, we now have the option of just maybe putting this in for a couple of minutes just to give it some caramelization on the sugars to improve the taste and texture. And there we have it, a microwave and air fryer sponge cake. It's just a pound cake recipe. For, in this case, a very small tin, but you can adjust it to the size of whichever cake tin, silicon cake tin you have, which will fit in both your microwave and then, more importantly, into your air fryer for the finishing stage. It's more important the cake fits in the air fryer. You don't necessarily need the tin to fit, but you don't want it overlapping because you won't fit it in. The next test will be to see how it tastes and what the structure is like. It is only a basic sponge recipe, but it's just to test whether these cooking methods can actually make a convincing cake. So here we have it. It's cooled down. It's pretty solid. I've cut it. It didn't just break like that. It's got a good crumb. It's quite dense. The acid test obviously will be how it tastes, so let's have a look. It sounds like it's insulation foam. There's some crumb in there. Surprisingly not bad. It's a little on the dry side, but then again it's just a pound cake. Bit of jam on the top, maybe some coconut. It'd be a perfectly acceptable sponge. Or it could be the right size for maybe trifle sponges. But I'm not going to bin it or try and break a window with it. There we go, there's my table manners again. So I wouldn't chuck it in the bin or through a window, because it would probably break both. But, you know, it's a sponge that took about 20 minutes. Very little power because the oven wasn't on. Can't really argue with that, can you? Try it. You might like it.